gray expanse of the Barents Sea, the water lies still as if waiting. Above, the wind carries a silence older than war. Beneath, a machine of steel and pride awakens.
Определяем позицию. Идем по графику.
Все системы в норме, товарищ капитан.
Aligning now, take it slow. Secure the valve. Valve is secure, Petty
The
Officer.
Kursk, Russia's mightiest submarine, built to rule the depths and defy the West. A fortress beneath the sea, forged in secrecy, baptized in confidence. In her shadow, the ocean itself seemed smaller. In grainy footage, sailors stand tall at her launch, faces young and certain. They could not imagine how history would remember them, not for victory, but for silence.
All hands! Brace for impact! Damn it! Port section 3. We've lost main power.
Inside, the hum of life. Laughter over metal, the scent of oil and iron. Young men writing home about calm seas, proud missions, and the long horizon. Commander Gennady Lyachin, steady, disciplined, loved by his men. He knew the Kursk like his own heartbeat, and the sea respected him for it. But the sea respects no one for long. In the torpedo room, the men worked with precision, muscle and memory in motion. Every sound, every hiss, every echo meant something. Discipline was their language, silence their prayer.
Быстрее! Закрыть все клапаны! Доложить обстановку немедленно! Шевелитесь!
They said it was just an exercise, Olga, but I heard the 4th Battalion was completely wiped out near the border.
It's much worse than they are letting on.
The submarine surged forward through the gray water, sleek, invincible, unstoppable. The sun pierced the clouds for a fleeting moment, gilding her black hull in fragile gold. Even pride can shimmer before it sinks. Then, a tremor, a flicker on a gauge, a vibration no one wanted to hear. And in an instant, the deep turned against them. The first explosion tore through steel and certainty alike. Metal screamed, lights died, the ocean swallowed their cry before it could rise.
Сколько можно ждать?
Море сегодня очень неспокойное.
Они вернутся, мама?
I am ordering you to disperse. We must maintain.
Get back! We know you are lying! Go away!
Listen to me.
We're too close! Pull up!
I'm trying. The stick is jammed. We have to clear the stern.
Мы получили информацию, что связь с подводной лодкой «Курск» временно прервана. На данный момент нет причин для серьезного беспокойства. Ведутся поисковые работы.
The matter of aid to the Russian Federation is, as you know, complex. We are reviewing the proposals carefully.
A second blast, far greater, final, and merciless. The Kursk shuddered, then began her long descent. The sea had claimed her, but not yet her story. Darkness pressed in like a living thing. The men who survived the blast awoke to silence, the kind that hums in the bones. They checked for light, for breath, for sound, but the sea had taken almost everything. In the shattered compartments, flashlights flickered over faces
The danger
pale
is
with
extreme.
disbelief.
When these
Some
cartridges
prayed,
contact
others
oil and
worked.
water, the resulting
None
chemical
spoke of
reaction
fear.
is highly
It was
volatile.
already there
We demand
in every
answers
breath.
now! How much longer do we have to wait?
Someone needs to take responsibility for this.
The department extends its deepest condolences. The investigation is ongoing.
Murderers!
Status. Confirmed green. Umbilical locked and sealed.
They gathered in the 9th compartment, 23 men, one last pocket of life inside a steel tomb. The commander of the survivors, Lieutenant Captain Kolesnikov, began to write. His words would outlive them all. The air grew thin, heavy with oil and smoke. Each movement cost oxygen, each minute a piece of time stolen from their lungs. They worked in the dark to restart the reactor. Not to live, but to be remembered trying. Above them, the sea was already writing its own version of the story. Surface ships searched, politicians waited, families prayed. But down here, the clock ticked louder than hope.
The pressure is increasing rapidly. We're trapped at 40 meters. Send immediate assistance.
По приказу командования я должен сообщить, что экипаж и судно объявлены погибшими в море.
Oh, Olga, we are so sorry. We've got you, just let it out.
How many more must
Through the
die
hull,
before you
they could
listen?
hear the tapping
We
of
demand
metal, their
justice
own
now!
rescue
Please.
signals echoing
We are
upward.
investigating the matter thoroughly.
Each tap was a message.
The colossal
We are still
Oscar II
here.
class submarine,
Each
the
silence
Kursk,
that
now
followed was
lies
the
on
ocean's
seabed,
reply.
a confirmed
Days
tomb
passed,
for the crew within.
or hours, no one could tell anymore. The dark became thicker, the cold sharper. Men slept beside the dead to keep warm. In the narrow beam of a flashlight, Kolesnikov wrote again. All 23 of us are here in the 9th compartment. No one can get out.
Forward cables. We're getting a shear
His
warning.
handwriting trembled, but his
Copy that.
words were
Increasing
steady.
power to the aft winches.
The highly unstable bow section was surgically cut away using the massive diamond wire. It was ultimately left behind on the seabed.
Water began to seep in, slow, deliberate, final. They sealed what they could, whispered their names to each other, and listened for rescue. Only the groan of the hull answered. One by one, the lights went out. One by one, the voices fell silent.
Is the only surviving record of what happened. It details the harrowing journey of the
The catastrophic failure was caused by
In
an
the
uncontrolled
end,
decomposition
all that
of high gas
remained was the
peroxide.
steady rhythm
As you
of
can
the
see in the
sea,
graphic,
and the echo of men who refused to give up breathing. On the surface, the search began. Ships scattered across the Barents Sea, their antennas cutting through fog like desperate hands reaching into the dark. Days passed, and the silence
The
below
Kremlin
grew
views
heavier
any
than the
technological
waves
setback
above.
not just as an engineering issue, but as a deep political embarrassment.
Families gathered in waiting rooms, clutching photographs and prayer cards. They asked questions no one could answer, and received answers no one believed. Hope is a fragile thing. It floats even when it knows it's sinking. The rescue subs tried to dock, but the currents pushed them back, again and again. Inside the Kursk, the men still tapped on the hull. By the time the sound reached the surface, the world had already moved on to politics. Officials spoke of equipment failures, of international offers, of delays. But the truth was simpler. The ocean doesn't wait for permission. It closes its doors when it decides the story is over.
It's okay, dear. We are here for you. Breathe slowly now.
The initial detonation sent a shockwave through the hull, triggering the sympathetic explosion of the remaining warheads, sealing the submarine's fate.
The bravery they showed, facing the deep ocean every day. It was love for each other.
When the divers finally reached the wreck, it was too late. They found notes sealed in plastic, watches stopped at the same hour, and hands still clasped together. Time, down there, had chosen its own ending. The bodies were brought home under gray skies. Flags were folded, speeches were written, and cameras rolled. But behind the ceremony, grief stood quietly. Unfilmed, unspoken, unending. In the cities, people left flowers at fountains and subway stations. Children drew submarines with angels beside them, and for a moment, a nation remembered what silence sounds like. The inquiry would name causes, assign blame, and close files. But the ocean doesn't keep archives, it keeps echoes, and in the dark, every echo is a name. Today, the Kursk rests 350 feet below the Barents Sea. Her steel is cold, her corridors still. But in that silence, something human endures, a memory that refuses to drown. The story of the Kursk is not just about loss, it's about the thin line between pride and compassion, between power and truth. The sea remembers what history forgets. And as always, the sea forgets nothing.